Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We're looking forward to discussing Azure Local and hearing any feedback or questions that you have. In case you're wondering why I am saying Azure Local and not Azure Stack HCI, in true Microsoft fashion, they have kept us on our toes and renamed it mid-November. The name change to Azure Local is really to communicate a single brand, one that unifies the entire Microsoft infrastructure portfolio. I'm Hannah Coney, Microsoft Business and SaaS Director at Comport Secure, and you're all very lucky to have our Azure Local guru himself with you today, Dion Ubert. Dion is Microsoft's Global Sales Director for Adaptive Cloud. And joining us is Matt Birch. Matt is Comport Secure's Vice President, a true mastermind in the data center, and Chad Willert, who at the end of today's conversation is going to talk about how our cloud and consulting services can help organizations with a hybrid infrastructure. The growing need for hybrid environments is obvious, and with recent changes in the hypervisor landscape, the need for reliable options is even more glaring. Dion and Matt are going to take you through trends. They're going to take you through use cases, paths to deploy and manage Azure Local, and at the end, offer you the chance to ask questions, share any feedback or thoughts you might already have, or anything that you think of today. I know a lot of people have been investigating and starting to go down the road of thinking about Azure Local as they hear more and more about it. But they're going to be able to answer any questions that you have. They're going to be able to give you expertise in moving forward. So don't be shy. Please put any questions, concerns you have in the Q&A, and we will wrap up with that.
Okay, great, Hannah. Thank you so much for this introduction. And as well, Matt and Chad, welcome to this webinar. I'm really excited to co-present to you today. So when we think about this, right, and my role at Microsoft. So my role at Microsoft is really around enabling hybrid cloud together with partners like Comport, who is our trusted partner in this journey. And so when Comport and Microsoft talk with joint customers across the US, we see a lot of big trends happening right now. And so one of the big things that we see often right now in the market is there's a lot of uncertainty around customers who have VMware, right? Like VMware is bought by Broadcom that create a lot of price increase and uncertainty. But we see that as well back with their Horizon solution that is being sold off to KRR investment. And so we see a lot of those customers coming to Comport and Microsoft and looking for alternative platform. One of the other things that we see together in the market is there's a lot of customers who have been sitting on-prem on SQL Server 2012 or Windows Server 2012 for the last 10 years. And they are coming to the conclusion around, hey, we have been sitting on-prem. We really want to go with one leg into the cloud and take a hybrid approach, as well benefit from the extent security updates they will get when they migrate into Azure Local. And then the last thing that we really see is around Citrix as well as a VDI player, right? So Citrix is being taken off the stock market. They're a great VDI solution, but one of the biggest challenges and feedback we get from our joint customers is that customers can go up in the number of VDI users, but they can't go down in their contract. And so when you take all of those things together, customers are looking more and more for trusted partners like Comport to help them on the journey to modernize their infrastructure. And some of those customers are moving into the cloud with, for example, AVS, Azure VMware Services, or they modernize it with the cloud, or they stay on-prem and ARC enable it. But what Matt, myself, and Chat see quite often is a lot of customers are looking for an alternative hybrid cloud platform. And that's the reason we were here today, to really talk more around Azure Local. Chad, anything you want to add around the trends you see in the market from a Comport perspective?
Yeah, the thing that we've seen quite a bit lately is the appropriateness, where the workloads should reside. Lots of customers are trying to figure out, should I be cloud first? Should I be cloud native? Should I keep everything on-prem? What's the hybrid strategy? How do I get the connectivity? Do I got to worry about egress? Where should I put these workloads? And so what I think the team here is trying to cover today is just investigating those things and figuring out where Azure Local might be an option for you in some of those particular use cases.
Yeah, that's great, Chad. And I know Matt, like you, is a trusted partner of us. You talk with a lot of customers as well, Matt. So Matt, any specific thoughts on the whole VMware trend and why customers are coming to Comport to look for an alternative platform?
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because what is driving a lot of this change was not, I mean, it was also technology, but it was principally getting driven by business level changes at at VMware Broadcom and at Citrix that in many cases dramatically increased the cost and reduced the choices and appropriatenesses of on-premise environments, right? So many of our clients are coming to us at this point saying, well, I have this VMware, on-premise environment that I've been happily using for 10 or 15 years, and we were comfortable with it and didn't see a burning need to move into a public cloud or hybrid cloud model. But as a result of many of the changes that occurred in both VMware and in Citrix over the course of the last year or two, what has happened is all of a sudden our clients who previously were in a very comfortable on-premise VMware-based scenario are now really heavily, investigating their options around moving some of their workloads out to the public cloud space, moving other workloads onto alternative hypervisors in on-premise environment, or moving into kind of a truly hybrid environment that involves, a mix of public cloud resources, private cloud resources, and locally virtualized hypervisors. And it's been really a dramatic shift that I think that's going to accelerate quite a bit over the course of the next, call it next 12 to 18 months.
No, I'm with you on the same page, Matt, right? And there's, I think, where we show up together for our joint customers to help them on that journey. So when we talk around really that fragmented infrastructure, right, where there's a lot of customers who have hybrid cloud, IoT, edge computing, distributed computing, sometimes even a multi-cloud strategy where they use Oracle, Google, AWS, and Microsoft Azure. One of the things that we notice together is like when things are fragmented, it's hard to manage. And now with the whole trend as well from an AI perspective, how do you really bring down those silos, bring your data together, create one holistic approach with a single control plane, and allowing you to really manage your hardware from cloud to edge in a more scalable way? And so we as Microsoft created a strategy that we call Adaptive Cloud. And an Adaptive Cloud is basically the Azure cloud that adapt to your circumstances to run Azure anywhere and everywhere with our primary and secondary workloads. We do that, of course, with our trusted hardware partners, but as well with our trusted partner Comport, who can help you on that journey. So when we talk about Adaptive Cloud, what does it actually mean for Microsoft? So for Microsoft and Comport together, it means like, hey, we want you to have a single experience and a single management layer, security layer, when you talk about edge computing, hybrid computing, IoT, and public cloud computing all in one single way. And so every time you go with Azure Local, it will connect into the same central management portal, what we call the Azure portal that you already use for your Azure cloud. We have the same security suite and AI enhancements built into Azure Local as well. So it really allows you to bring Azure all the way to your environment while still managing this all from the Azure management portal with the same security and same AI enhancements that you're used to. The other thing that's really important when we talk together with Comport is around your applications, right? There's a lot of applications you have with your VMs and your containers. So with Adaptive Cloud and the way Microsoft brings that together with Azure Local, it really allows you to rapidly scale and develop applications from cloud to edge and from edge to cloud. And then the last thing that we really care about together is that we bring down those silos that we talked about in the beginning, really making sure that you can cultivate your data, getting your insight across your physical operations, and bring it in one holistic approach. And so you probably think, Dion and Chad and Matt, that is a great story and a lot of marketing messages there as well, but how does it really come together? And I think what we show on our screen now shows you how it really comes together with the expertise of Comport, Microsoft Technology, our OEM partner in this case, for example, HPE, and really bring the cloud to you as our customer instead of you moving to the cloud, and provide you that alternative hybrid cloud solution there that you're looking for. So if you look to our screen, on the right side, you see like your traditional hardware. Comport works with all of the major OEMs, but HPE is one of those OEMs that we work with. we have co-designed hardware together with HPE that we call Azure Local hardware. That basically means all of our software is pre-installed, all of the security settings are turned on, and it is Arc enabled out of the box. Arc allows you to connect it directly into the Azure portal and have one single experience. So the moment you buy this hardware, Azure Local together from Comport, it's click and play, right? You connect it into your internet, you sign in with your Azure tenant, and it shows you Azure Arc directly into your Azure portal. And that's what you see here on the top, right? Under the AI enhancement and central management of security is the portal is the same portal that you use for the cloud, but as well to manage all of your local infrastructure. But the beauty here is like, because we want to bring down those silos, it really allows you to extend as well your resource manager. So your resource manager is the resource manager where you have your security, your governance, your policies all set. You can cascade that from the cloud directly to your own infrastructure and run that into your own data center, having one single orchestration across your government, your security, your policies. But other things that are coming up often when we talk with Matt and Chad is like, hey, we see many customers who want to create one security strategy. You remember in the beginning, we showed you all of those different islands with different infrastructure. A lot of customers have different security strategies as well. And nowadays, with all of those cyber attacks, how do we bring that together? And so I think here's a perfect example where Comport can be your trusted advisor and say, hey, you can now run Microsoft Defender or Microsoft Monitor or Microsoft Sentinel, all of our security features directly from the cloud on your own hardware, your own data center, allowing you to have one single security orchestration from cloud to edge and from edge to cloud. And when we talk about applications, we as Microsoft together with Comport really work as well with a bunch of different solutions there. You can run your VMs that come from VMware. You can run containers with Azure Kubernetes services that is unlimited and for free on Azure Local. But if you have a bunch of developers who are working on code with GitHub, you can grab your code and apply it directly on Azure Local as well, and really manage easily to scale your applications from cloud to edge and from edge to cloud. And you decide when you run those applications. And then lastly, that what we really talk about is like, hey, how do we really bring your hardware infrastructure into the Azure portal? And so, as I mentioned, all of the hardware is Arc enabled. So you can see the hardware status, you can see if there's updates needed, you can see like how many VMs and workloads you run, all from one single control plane. But one of the things we do as well is we have built-in IoT operations into Azure Local, allowing you to connect all of your IoT sensors into Azure Local, do the processing there, and then connect it back into the cloud. We run as well other workloads like SQL, Azure Virtual Desktop, Microsoft Fabric, machine learning, all what you need in the cloud. You can run it all locally here. So Matt, before we go to the next slide, anything you want to add here around like services that Comport brings together, as well Gartner, how we get recognized together?
Yeah, I mean, I actually want to talk more about hybrid cloud real quickly. Because hybrid cloud is something that we've been talking about for years and years and years, maybe almost a decade at this point, right? And but one of the challenges that we've always run into was the ability to seamlessly stitch together public cloud resources with co-location data center based resources with on-premise, local resources. There are applications that, for whatever reason, are not appropriate for public cloud. Maybe there are regulatory reasons, maybe there are latency requirements, maybe they're just emotional or comfort reasons that you need to have those applications local and close to the end user. And similarly, there's some other use cases, content delivery networks, elastic resources, applications that need just tremendous amounts of scale or geographic dispersion that are really appropriate for public cloud. So historically, if we wanted to be able to fulfill that kind of that hybrid cloud dream, you needed to be able to stitch together different products from different manufacturers on different management planes. And it was really challenging to do that in a cohesive way that didn't sacrifice, operational efficiency and also didn't create, kind of glaring security holes. one of the things that I'm really excited about here that Dion touched on is that now we can do this from a single or mostly single, management plane, all the way from your content delivery on the public cloud edge, all the way down to potentially small form factor Azure Local appliances that could be at small offices or remote offices, and manage the security policies across the entire platform. And it's something that I'm personally really excited about. Dion is showing here the Gartner presentation for distributed hybrid infrastructure, but interestingly, Microsoft occupies a similar sort of top right position on on a number of the security Magic Quadrants as well. And that's something that I find really interesting, is just how well Microsoft has progressed in their overall holistic strategy of kind of driving forward, on the management, hybrid cloud, and security spaces.
That's great, Matt. And so I think one of the things that Comport offers is, of course, a lot of value to the partners like yourself, to customers. So do you want to talk a little bit more around the solution provider, the managed services, and as well the cloud services providers piece?
Yeah, absolutely. So Comport Consulting, we've been around for a long time. We were founded in 1982. So I believe this is our 42nd year in business. And over that time, we've developed a deep understanding predominantly in data center technologies, which is where our lineage and where we started. But we've evolved tremendously over the years, bringing on other technologies around compute and virtualization and security and storage, and now continuing to evolve into AI, in other places, right? Back in 2016, we started Comport Secure, which is our managed, hosted, and cloud services organization. Comport Secure has, again, grown enormously over the course of the last 7.5 years, and we've gone through a lot of the process that's really required to be a credible service provider. As an example, we just completed our 4th year as a SOC 2 Type 2 certified service provider. All of our engineers go through HIPAA training, as healthcare is a really important vertical to us. We're an ISO 27001 compliant organization from a service delivery perspective. And being able to kind of really execute on those services in a consistent and reliable and an effective fashion has been really core to our growth there. And then finally, when we were selecting out our public cloud or our various cloud service provider options, we started with a few legs to that stool, with VMware, with Microsoft, with Veeam, with GreenLake, which is the consumption and cloud model from HPE. And we're really bringing those together to tie them into a single kind of cohesive solution and message for our clients. And it's really paid off well, and has resulted in our clients being able to improve their reliability and their security and their productivity.
That's great. This other piece, right? Like, I think, Matt, that you maybe want to talk about is like around Comport Secure for Azure infrastructure. We want to spend a little bit more time on that.
Yeah, so we currently operate 3 data centers here in the United States. One in Atlanta, one in Las Vegas, and one in Minneapolis. All of our data centers are Tier 5 data centers, built to really the highest level of physical security, reliability, and expandability. And out of those 3 data centers, we provide a variety of private cloud, public cloud, and hybrid cloud solutions. Historically, all of the solutions that we had offered out of these data centers were were predominantly VMware. But a lot of the changes that have been made over the course of the last year really helped us rethink our strategy and helped our clients kind of rethink how it was that they were going to go to market in order to be able to satisfy their needs around uptime and around security. And so what we've really done is we've started really executing on our hybrid cloud strategy, predominantly using Microsoft as the public cloud provider, an enabler of those services. Something that I forgot to mention on the prior slide, talking about our managed services, is an investment that we made last year. Was we brought all of our NOC in-house and US based. So when we look at the managed services that we deliver today around all of these infrastructure as a service solutions, these are all Comport badged employees that are based in the United States that go through the exact same levels of training and security credentialing that the rest of our employees go through. And what that means is that we can deliver very high levels of services, particularly around those applications that we care a lot about. Things like Azure Virtual Desktop, or Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And we're starting to develop some of those competencies around products like Microsoft Sentinel, as an example.
That's great, Matt. Thank you so much. So let's dive a little bit deeper in on like what is Azure Local and how does it come together with Comport Secure, right? So one of the things is like you're familiar with Azure Stack HCI for the last couple of years that Microsoft have been really working on as like a true end-to-end hybrid cloud platform that is ARC enabled. So one of the things that we did 2 weeks ago, to Hannah's point earlier, is we had a really big event in Chicago, what we call Microsoft Ignite. And we announced there a rebrand of Azure Stack HCI to Azure Local. Azure Local for us is where we are merging all of our platforms into one single orchestration. So we as Microsoft had Azure Stack Edge, Azure Stack Hub, Azure Stack HCI, Azure for Operators, and we are merging all of those platforms together and run that with a guest and host OS, what's Windows Server and HCI OS, and we call it Azure Local. That means we come as well up with all kinds of new form factors. So low spec, low cost hardware. If you talk about healthcare clinics or hospitals where you want to connect those, we have, of course, our connected servers when you talk about data center scenarios and want to deploy that. But one of the other things that we just recently announced as well is disconnected operations. So if you have an environment where you have not always the connectivity, or you're a government customer, or you have sensitive data that need to be air capped, we will start supporting that as well. And so with Azure Local, it really allows you to run Azure anywhere and everywhere across your whole estate, from small form factors to like data center scenarios to like large deployments as well. When we talk about use case scenarios in that space, we run in all kinds of use case scenarios. We see a lot of customers coming over from VMware that we mentioned in the beginning. See customers coming over from Nutanix, customers coming over from Windows Server, and really modernize that with a hybrid cloud approach. And that allows you to run either SQL databases or Postgres. It allows you to run native applications with VMs or even AKS with the Azure Kubernetes services. But one of the things that we will spend more time on later on is as well virtual desktop. One of the things that we have noticed in recent months is, hey, there's a big amount of customers in healthcare, in enterprise, in government that are standardized on Citrix or Horizon. And with the market trends that we described in the beginning, they're looking to combine and standardize on a much bigger scale with their cloud strategy. And so we see a lot of customers now moving into Azure Virtual Desktop, run that on Azure Local in their own environment with low latency, and then run that in a holistic approach with their central management control plane. And so Azure Local really allows you to run basically all kinds of workloads, what we showed you in the beginning, in your own data center. If this primary, what I described with SQL, Postgres, AVD, or like secondary with like Defender, Monitor, Sentinel, GitHub, whatever you prefer, you can decide where you want to run your workloads and how you want to run your workloads. One of the things that we talk often about in our conversation today is Azure Arc. And so you're probably wondering, can we spend a little bit more time on that? And the answer is yes. So when we think around infrastructure, and when I described to you in the beginning, what we see often is a lot of fragmentation, different infrastructure across different estates where you need to have different expertise. And so one of the things that we did is we as Microsoft created a single control plane that we call Azure Arc. All of Azure Local has Arc built in, what allows you to click and play, connected into the internet. It shows up as a resource into your Azure portal, and it allows you directly, as you see in step 1, to spin up your containers, to spin up your virtual machines, what you see in step 2. But one of the other things that we described in the beginning is like, hey, in the Azure portal, you have already like your Azure Resource Manager, where you have your governance, your security, your management, your policies, where you allow people to make certain decisions. You can cascade the Azure Resource Manager directly as well through Azure Arc to your own data center, allowing you to have one holistic approach when you talk about your governance, your security, and your management. But then one of the last things is, hey, when you have a lot of different hardware, you want to get those insights of that hardware. Are they up to date? Do they need to be patched? Which workloads do you run on it? Like how many servers do we run in New York or in Atlanta or Las Vegas? And so Azure Arc allows you in step 4 as well to really get to updates from your hardware directly into the portal and manage all of that hardware and updates from the portal itself as well, what simplifies your life. The good news is that Azure Arc has a lot of capabilities when you combine it with Azure Local, but Azure Arc as well exists for VMware estate, for Windows Server, for Nutanix, or for Linux-based systems. So if you have a mixed environment where you say, hey, we want to go down the Azure Local route, but I have still some VMware as well, you can install Azure Arc on VMware, still connected into your Azure portal, while you have as well Azure Local in the same portal as well, and manage the same workloads across your whole estate. And that's the beauty of our joint platform. We bring down those silos. We allow you to unpack your data, and you can manage everything from one single control plane. So one of the things you're probably wondering is, how does this all come together? And if you look to our screen, I think this is a really beautiful slide, and it sounds maybe even a little bit nerdy, but it's kind of art, right? Because in the top, you see any app, right? And that's what like Matt and Chad and I talked about, is like, you have all of that goodness sitting in the cloud, but you want to bring that to your own estate. And so if that is applications on Windows or Linux applications, or like virtual desktop or data services like SQL, Postgres, or IoT operations, or even one of the things we announced 2 weeks ago is like our AI and ML services, you can run all of those applications by Azure Arc on your Azure Local infrastructure, right? Because you own your own hardware, or you take a managed service through like Comport as well, what Matt was highlighting. And so you can pull through all of those workloads through Azure Arc on your own Azure Local OS with Windows Server and HCI OS. And then you can choose any type of hardware, right? If that is small form factor, embedded IoT in a hospital or a health clinic, if it's ruggedized because you have a distribution center for like your manufacturing site, or for your hospital, like to hand out clothes and like equipment. Or if you talk about a data center scenario where you need like a more click and play, like rack server or a tower, we together with Comport offer all that variety of solutions to you as our customer, and we can be your trusted partner in that journey to see how we can unlock this potential with you. So when we talk a little bit more around different hardware form factors, we have a full catalog, and we will put the link in the chat later on, or maybe Hannah, you can do that. But we have a link where we have a full catalog with more than 160 platforms. To Matt's point, Matt and the team have a really great relationship with all of the OEMs, especially with HPE. So when you talk around GreenLake, when you talk around the DL380, 385, 360, Apollo platforms, all of those platforms are validated and co-engineered within Microsoft, their silicon provider, as well HPE, but as well with the other OEMs. And Comport is able to help you to size the right hardware and the right environments for your organization, if that is small form factor or big form factor. When we talk about use case scenarios, and Matt and like as well chat, feel free to chime in here, is we see all kinds of use case scenarios happening across our customer estate, right? One of the things we see more and more happening as well in like healthcare, for example, is AI inferencing. And maybe Matt, you want to talk a little bit more about like what you see in healthcare and how AI becomes more important in this journey?
Sure. I mean, so from a AI platform perspective, I mean, I guess particularly in healthcare, what you're seeing uh, on the image learning and machine learning space, right? Being able to more quickly and reliably identify potential injuries or cancers that are existing within within an MRI, as an example. This is a space where a lot of the large research institutions are putting enormous amounts of time and energy into developing these various treatment models. As an example, one of my clients is an oncology treatment platform, and so they use these heavy-duty GPU-enabled platforms to be able to analyze a tumor and then develop a treatment plan for it using a three-dimensional model and a proton beam solution that goes in there and destroys the tumor without damaging the surrounding tissue too heavily. It's really changing the landscape, particularly in these very targeted solutions within the healthcare market.
Yeah, and I think one of the beautiful things here, Matt, is that like Comport was part of as well the Ignite announcements that we did, is we as Microsoft now enable Azure Visual or Azure Machine Learning or Azure Generative AI to run on Azure Local in your own data center, right? So to Matt's point, like Azure Visual, you can take video streams or pictures and do all of the analytics really within your own data center without moving into the cloud. And it allows you to utilize your local GPU and CPU. And if that is security, where you maybe want to have camera control and recognize strange behavior, if that is pictures or CT scans of bodies to protect and detect certain diseases, you can do that now on Azure Local. And this is what we see with mission critical applications, right? Like we want to make sure that you can continue to run a hybrid cloud even with disconnected scenarios that we talked about in the past. Or when we talk, for example, about low latency, IoT is built into IoT operations is built into Azure Local. So you can do all of that low latency processing at the edge and move only the most critical data into the edge. But one of the other things is, for example, Azure Virtual Desktop. When you have VDI, you want to have low latency, and you can run now Azure Virtual Desktop on Azure Local, and together with Comport Secure, right, where they are your trusted partner, they can really help size you that environment and keep your data in local environments, keep it under control, and be regularly in alignment with your government rules as well. So VMware-wise, Matt, and you are a great expert in this, is we see Azure Local as a great VMware alternative as well. You can run, of course, a lot of your applications and VMs. We have, of course, to have what we talked about, the unified consistent management with Azure Arc. We have, of course, all of the cloud services that we can pull through. You have, of course, an alternative with Azure Virtual Desktop for Horizon. You have, of course, a great offer with all of your hardware on the right size for the right price. Is there anything else you want to add to this, Matt, on VMware to Azure Local alternative and how Comport can help in that journey?
No, I mean, I think that you covered all the important ones there. I think that the 2 or 3 that are particularly important are unified consistent management, and sort of as a subsection to that, the security aspects of a unified platform. Microsoft Sentinel, which is Microsoft SIM, and Microsoft Copilot for Security, which is their AI security platform, are both products that get significantly better the more data sources that you're able to push into them. So being able to kind of unify that platform and push that information in on a management and security perspective means that you're able to really deliver a higher level of fidelity around the security information that you're providing. Obviously, the saving money has been a major driver of a lot of the VMware to Azure sort of interest that we've seen. Many of our clients are coming from a scenario where their VMware bills may have increased 2, 3, 10x, right? And all of a sudden, particularly when you're dealing with institutions that may have fixed budgets, government institutions as an example, being able to get that extra money is really problematic. One particular use case that I personally am particularly excited about was the Azure Virtual Desktop, the Azure Virtual Desktop model, and that particular use case is driving a lot of interest, and a lot of the scenarios where we're spending our time and working on.
Yeah, and the good news is we have a few slides later on Azure Virtual Desktop where we can even double click more, and that's a good segue into the next slide. Is what does Microsoft offer together with Comport as well to make your migration easier? So one of the things that we announced at Microsoft Ignite is as well the public preview of the Azure Migrate tool. So we have a migration tool for many decades right now where you can move from on-prem into the cloud. We built out a migration tool that allows you to go from on-prem to on-prem. So it could be from VMware to Azure Local. It could be basically any hypervisor. So if there's Nutanix or Windows Server, you can do that as well. The beauty here is like with our new migration tool, you can move directly off your data to Azure Local directly. You use the cloud as the control plane, but the data is not going into the cloud. But the differentiator here is that it is a tool free of charge. So when you normally look to third-party tools, they charge per VM to do the migration. So together with Comport, you can use this tool and do a free migration service without any cost. Of course, there's headcount involved, but the tool itself is free. So you heard already Matt talking a little bit around Azure Virtual Desktop and why he's really excited around that. So one of the things that we announced in February of this year is the global availability of Azure Virtual Desktop on Azure Local. And the way to think about it is like we had Azure Virtual Desktop in the native cloud. And during the pandemic, that was one of the fastest growing workloads in our history. But we got more and more questions from our joint customers who said, hey, can we run Azure Virtual Desktop in my own data center? Because I have like government requirements, I have low latency requirements, I have data that can't move into the cloud. And so one of the things we did is we designed for our customers an end-to-end platform with Azure Virtual Desktop that runs on top of Azure Local. It combines the benefit of your own infrastructure, your own hardware environment with your own GPUs and CPUs, combine it with our software to allow you to have that low latency. And you can extend that in your data center. But if you are ever end up in a situation where you need to burst into the cloud to have temporary workforce, it allows you to do that as well. And so one of the key benefits is that Azure Virtual Desktop is all managed from the Azure portal as well, the number of users. And one of the other things is that you can really bring your own Windows 10 or Windows 11 license to Azure Virtual Desktop and do multi-session. So you can do 10 users per one single license, what helps you to reduce the licensing costs, manage that all from one single central management portal. And on top of that, with the Windows app, you can run it on any kind of form factor. If that is a tablet, if there's a PC, a laptop, a desktop, or thin client, Comport can help you in that journey to really define what is needed. And so with Azure Virtual Desktop, You get all of the benefits that you're used to. It is fully secured, right? So you heard Matt talking about all of the security standards that the organization already has, but we pull that through as well with our workload in this case. So you have the secure where you run it anywhere and everywhere as you stream it directly from your own data center. You can do multi-session with Windows 10 or Windows 11, right? So what I mentioned before, you can have multiple users on one single license simultaneously at the same time. That allows you to have much more like cost-effective like licensing structure. When you talk about, for example, performance, one of the things that you can do is like if you get Azure Local into your own data center with GPUs built in, you can allocate GPU power for the most intense like VDI users. So if you have VDI users who use, for example, in a university, a workstation to do predictions or to do calculations, you can utilize the power of the GPU in the server itself to support those kind of users as well, and really have that low latency workloads that we talk about. And everything allows you to be fully in control, right? Everything is managed from the Azure portal. You allocate which users are having access to Azure Virtual Desktop. If there's Windows 365 included, including like Office 365, and it allows you to really optimize your costs, right? One of the beautiful things is like one virtual desktop, so one virtual CPU per hour is only $1 on your own infrastructure. It's one of the most valuable solutions we have together right now in the market. So I think this is a good segue into chat to talk about where you can start on this journey. So chat, do you want to talk a little bit more about this?
Perfect. Thanks, Dion. Appreciate you sending it over here. Yeah. You kind of mentioned there about the pandemic and, trying to optimize your cost. What we can do is help you with your journey to figure out, yeah, we just went through the pandemic. We moved some stuff to the cloud. We upgraded some stuff, but we still have some technical debt. And now our costs are a little increased, and we're trying to figure out how to optimize that stuff. So we have assessment discoveries to help dig into that, get some visibility into what you have for your use cases, your workloads, where they reside, provide some analysis and synthesis of that data, listen to, your pains that you have, and gather all that data together to form some recommendations and a roadmap and prioritize those recommendations to figure out what's the low-hanging fruit, where can we actually get the best bang for our buck to reduce those costs in certain areas and reduce that technical debt so we can actually bring growth to the organization in the areas that the business is asking us for that infrastructure that we're trying to deploy. So if we flip over to the next slide, what would be some of the benefits and the gains that we could actually get from one of these assessments through those recommendations that are prioritized is we can increase and enhance your security posture. We'll increase the ROI because we're looking at those workloads and where they reside, try and reduce those costs and put the workloads where they're best for your use cases. And hopefully we can become scalable and create the infrastructure that you need to provide the value that you need to the business and improve the performance and get insights into what you're trying to do with those workloads in the different areas in your hybrid infrastructure. Is it better for this application to reside in a container in the cloud, or like Matt and Dion were describing, is it better for Azure Local because we need that data on-prem instead of having to traverse it out to the public cloud? Let's process that stuff locally here and figure out what we can do with that data to enable our business. So I think what I'll do is kick it back over to Dion because I think he has steps on how we can actually try this out.
Yeah, but thank you so much, Matt. And I think one of the beautiful things is like with Azure Local, what we have seen a lot with our joint customers is like they are able to reduce their footprint. They are able to have more effective like consumption of their usage of compute, right? So there's beautiful case studies out there. If you go to azurelocal.com, where you can see all kinds of use case scenarios where customers save significant amount of money on power by reducing that, like in a good way, as we have more effective designed machines together with Comport Secure. One of the other things from a licensing perspective is like there's a lot of licensing ways to license Azure Local, right? But one of the benefits is like Azure hybrid benefits can be combined with Azure Local, meaning like you only need the Windows Server data center license with software assurance, and you're eligible for free hybrid cloud, unlimited containers, as well free extended security updates. So how can we try this all out, and how can we help you on the journey? So first of all, Comport is your trusted partner. If you have any follow-up questions, or you want to do a deep dive or a joint work session or assessment, reach out to Comport. They are happy to help you with your account manager to plan it all. On top of that, we have as well like seed units. So together with HPE and Comport and Microsoft, we have POC pilot programs. So if we define together, hey, this is the right path forward, we define the joint success criteria. We have as well equipment available to do pilots and POCs to show you what's the benefit of our joint platform. The other thing is like, hey, if you just want to try and play around for yourself, Azure Local is free for the first 8 weeks of your usage. So if you want to install it on validated hardware that is really combined with the hardware that we required, you can install it as well in your own environment. So with that, I think we come to like the last 8 minutes left, and Hannah and team to maybe answer some questions that are in there. And if not, I can see already one question that I can bring up to Matt if that's needed.
Actually, I do have a couple questions here, so I'll
Okay,
start
great.
and you can hand it over to your question for Matt. The first one I think is probably a common question with the news of the disconnected model. If they are running in a disconnected model, do they need an on-premise Active Directory?
So good question. So we as Microsoft, you can manage that with Active Directory, Azure Local, but one of the other things that we have is Azure Key Vault can now be selected as well to manage all of your Azure Local. When you talk about disconnected scenarios that is currently announced in preview, is that like the way it works is like it is be fully offline in an air-gapped scenario if you want to. We bill you on a 12-month basis. So there's a secure way where we can see your actual usage without the data being connected into the cloud. So you pay upfront for 12 months and you can run it fully in a disconnected scenario. So either Active Directory or Azure Key Vault could be those options to manage those environments.
Okay, awesome. The next question, it sounds like we've got someone who might be already leveraging or starting to begin the process of moving to Azure Local. The question is, what happens to my Azure Stack commands if it is now Azure Local?
So Azure Stack is Azure Local, right? So it is a rebrand of all of the platforms. It's still the same OS, the same features and the same capabilities. We just announced more capabilities and simplified branding for all of the form factors we have. So everything that you have in place right now, if you have currently Azure Stack HCI, you will see in the portal that it will be rebranded to Azure Local. And you will see that we will have more features becoming available. One of the things that we announced at Ignite as well is that instead of a yearly update cadence, we're moving to a quality cadence to bring more features and more capabilities to the platform to really build out those hybrid capabilities.
Thank you. Last question before I hand it back to you, Dion, is if I have an existing Azure subscription, can I change that for Azure Local?
So Azure Local will utilize your existing Azure subscription. So the best way to think about it is you have your Azure account, what we call an Azure tenant. Azure Local that you maybe buy or purchase through Comport is Azure. So you connect that Azure Local into the same tenant, and you will manage that from the same account within your same portal. So yes, you can combine it all and run it from one single tenant and orchestration as well. Yeah, and then maybe as we have a few minutes left, Matt and Chat, do you maybe want to talk a little bit more about like what else Comport can offer and what kind of journeys you have been on with some of the customers? Like, are there certain use case scenarios that you see often being brought to you by your customers that maybe some of our webinar users can identify themselves with?
Sure. I mean, to the point earlier, I think that the Azure Virtual Desktop is the use case that we are seeing the most. With VMware spinning Omnissa off into Horizon View off into Omnissa as a separate organization, some of the future is a little bit uncertain about how people are going to, procure that product and how well they're going to integrate in the future. As an example, we have a large client. They're a large law firm, probably about 800 users. Historically, they were running Citrix on VMware for their VDI solution. They're, as part of the VMware changes, they made a decision that there was not only a cost challenge here, but there was also a business risk challenge where they were debating whether they had reliable business partners in their technology manufacturers. So they've made a decision to move towards a Azure Local based hypervisor, and a Azure Virtual Desktop solution down on top of it. For them, it made a lot of sense because they were able to go to a unified management model for their public cloud facing resources, as well as being able to move over to a more reliable platform for their on-premise virtualization and virtual desktop needs. Their users are very sensitive to reliability and latency issues. These are expensive users that are accessing this platform, and so latency, user experience, and reliability were key drivers of making that decision.
Yeah, that's great, Matt, and I definitely recognize it as well, right? Like we see a lot of that VDI being one of those use case scenarios. One of the other things we see often is, of course, SQL, and as well running one of your containers and VMs, right? Like I think the beauty with Azure Local now is like we give you unlimited AKS, so unlimited containers as well as part of the price. And so I think there's a lot of like opportunities there to containerize your applications. So maybe to close out, Chad, you talked around like the assessments that like Comport offers. So we see around a number of users here on the number of customers here on the call. If they want to do those assessments, to who should they reach out to? Should they email you or the account executive, or what will be that process for them for the next step to engage with Comport?
Yeah, any of the email addresses listed there from the Comport side or their account rep that they actually work with extensively. They know about our approaches for our assessments. They've kind of been debriefed on what the approach would look like, how we engage, and reaching out to any of those resources, we would get the right person involved to have the discussion with them initially in the pre-sales process to see if it would be a fit, to have some of our resources come in and do that assessment, to meet with their stakeholders, review the environment with read-only access, or shadow one of their resources to get visibility into what they have, whether it be on-prem or in the cloud already, to assess those workloads and do the analysis on it and provide them some recommendations.
And if there's need to review, if you have questions, if you want to jump right into extending this conversation specifically for your environment, there's going to be a follow-up email coming out from the Comport team. So be on the lookout for that. And that will give you the option to click and set up a time to talk with Chad and team, or Matt and Dion about actually deploying Azure Local.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
I think we come to an end here.
Dion, you shared some links in your presentation. Those links will also be sent out as well as follow-up, and they'll be available to anyone after the webinar who'd like to access those. The recording will also be hosted online and shareable for anyone who wants to revert back to that or share it with their team members that weren't able to join today.
Okay, great. I think that comes to an end here as we are at the top of the hour. So I would say thank you everyone for joining today. We are looking forward to engage with you further on the opportunities, and special thanks, of course, to Hannah, Matt, and Chad as well with all of their expertise. We are really excited to engage with you as our customer to help you on your hybrid cloud journey. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dion.
Thanks, everyone.